In this video, I'm going to present a guide to the benefits of using a gimbal, based around a look at Hohem's iSteady M7 for smartphones. I'll show you what the gimbal can do. It's an amazing piece of equipment, and I'll explain why it's so useful. And as an extra bonus, if indeed it is a bonus, you'll briefly see me in front of the camera for a change. I thought about buying a gimbal for some time now, not just to help produce my channel videos, but also for taking smartphone videos of my family and friends. Gimbals, if they work as advertised, give you steadier video clips as you walk and pan around, and the more sophisticated ones, like the iSteady M7, have a range of fantastically useful features at a reasonable price. And it's not just useful for videography, it can also add value to your photography with smartphones. To date, however, I've been put off by the advanced technology, the fear of not being able to set up and operate it properly, getting it to balance correctly, mastering all the different controls, and quite frankly, for someone born in 1900 and something, the gear looked and seemed rather intimidating. And to be honest, I was concerned that I wouldn't get enough use out of a more sophisticated gimbal to justify its cost, versus what I could get from a very basic, cheapo selfie stick, for example. So when Hohem contacted me out of the blue and kindly offered to send me their new gimbal in return for a YouTube review, well, having checked out how well respected the gimbal is in online reviews, I thought, why not give it a go? I'll share my journey with the iSteady M7 with you, from setting it up to trying it out in different ways, and hopefully you'll get a sense of the benefits and fun I've been having. I'm not going to give you a conventional tutorial into how to use the different features and controls for the gimbal. There are plenty of excellent tutorials from various expert influencers online. Instead, I'm going to show you 4 specific ways in which the gimbal can add significant value to your videos, whether you're just a casual user of smartphones taking videos at home and on holiday, or you're a more dedicated creator or vlogger. The first and most conventional benefit of using a gimbal is that it reduces the shake you can get walking around with a smartphone handheld. It's impressive how stable this gimbal makes videos. It doesn't just reduce the shake as you walk forward, but it also helps you to pan smoothly from side to side. And you can easily pan your smartphone right around for a selfie. Another way you can use the gimbal in panning mode is to take these kinds of 360-degree look-arounds, or point it upwards at the sky. A second valuable feature of this gimbal is you can use its controls to zoom into or out of a scene. No need to do that 2-finger thing on the smartphone's screen. You can do it on the gimbal. This really is a much better way of making an impressive looking video. The third valuable feature of this gimbal is AI tracking, where you can stand the gimbal on its legs or put it on a separate tripod, select a subject to focus on, and the gimbal will move around to track that subject. Here's an example where the video on the left is without tracking, i.e. the smartphone is fixed in one position, while on the right the tracking is turned on. I can't tell you how many times the camera or lens slips out of the frame while I'm videoing close-ups like this. It's a nuisance and it doesn't look professional. With the AI tracking on, you don't need to worry about this, as the gimbal will pan the smartphone to keep your subject in the center of the frame. AI tracking is also useful for tracking moving subjects further away, where there are no limits to where you can pan. The gimbal moves to follow your chosen subject, and it can track things that are moving quite fast. This train was filmed with me hand-holding the gimbal, and the gimbal did the tracking. A fourth reason why the gimbal is so useful is that it's a great solution if you want to produce content where you want to talk straight to the camera, but also move around. Generally, much better than talking to a smartphone held in your hand. The great thing is that you can create this content without any help from others. Oh, the lonely life of a vlogger. But equally, if you set this up, you can have your whole family and friends in the frame without the need for anyone behind the equipment. For the remainder of this video, I'll briefly explain how to set up the gimbal in each of the 4 scenarios. And if you'd rather go straight to one particular section, I provided time links in the description and comments. There are other features I found useful for videos and photography, and I'll quickly cover those at the end. One other point, features such as AI tracking will work with your smartphone camera as is, but you do need to download the Hohem app if you want to use some of the more advanced features of the gear, and you need to turn on Bluetooth, so the gimbal can communicate with the app. This is what the app's main control screen looks like. It covers all the options you get on your smartphone: video, photo, pano, time-lapse, and so on. I like the controls on this app. They give you a range of options for tailoring your videos and photos, as well as other functions. For example, you can easily take control of the camera settings, such as ISO, shutter speed, and EV. And it gives you a menu for video settings, as well as photo styles. Now let's move on to the most basic use of the gimbal for straight-ahead videoing and panning, and I'll show you how easy it is to set it up for the first time. As I've already mentioned, I was rather intimidated by the prospect of setting up a gimbal like this, but I needn't have worried. The gear comes in an attractive padded case, useful for carrying it around safely, although you can also take it around in a reasonable sized bag. It's small enough to fit in my camera bag. Once you've taken it out, screwed on the tripod base, and it's powered up with a USB-C cable, you need to unlock the arms. There are 3 switches locking the arms for transportation. Slip in your smartphone with Bluetooth enabled, turn the gimbal on, and then you need to make sure your smartphone is balanced properly on the gimbal, whether it's landscape or portrait. I'll stick to landscape for this video. It's incredibly easy to balance the gimbal. No maths or science or programming. All you have to do is to ensure the phone is parallel to the horizon, and if it's not, then you adjust it like this. And if you want to check how well it's balanced, you can check on this screen. One outstanding feature of the gimbal is that you can detach the controller screen and use it as a remote controller. Plus it has a live view of what the smartphone is recording, and that's incredibly helpful when you're setting up the gear from a distance, as I'll show you later. For this demonstration, I wanted the gimbal to keep the horizon steady, so the gimbal is set to PF mode. PF means pan follow, where the smartphone is locked into its horizontal position as you pan from side to side or up and down. And you do have these other choices about how the gimbal moves vertically and horizontally. PTF means pan tilt follow, where the smartphone stays locked in a horizontal position, but you can tilt the smartphone upwards or downwards. POV means all the arms are unlocked, and custom is where you can decide how to lock each arm of the gimbal. With PF mode, if you're using the gimbal handheld, as you can see, you can move the gimbal from side to side, and the smartphone will remain steady and horizontal. When you're ready to start videoing, you press this red button on the gimbal, or press the button on the smartphone, and you're off. You can pan the video either by moving the gimbal itself, or you can use this toggle to rotate the smartphone in whatever direction you want, side to side and up and down. If you want to take a selfie, you can easily switch the orientation of the smartphone by triple clicking on this trigger. You can extend the length of the gimbal for selfies by pulling this out. If you want to pan 360 degrees around where you're standing, you can go to Scenario and then Rotation, select your speed of rotation and start the rotation. Or if you want to pan upwards around the sky, you change the tilt deflect slider and the gimbal will rotate for one rotation or until you press exit, depending on what you want. My second example of helpful benefits involves the ability to zoom in and out of a scene using the gimbal's controls, so much better than having to use the smartphone's controls. All you need to do this is to toggle this knob to zoom in and out. It's as simple as that. Turning, so to speak, to AI tracking. This small attachment at the top is part of the gimbal that does the tracking, and you can easily change its orientation from back to front. The attachment also has a light, which is great if you want to illuminate closer up objects, in tabletop videos for instance, and you can change the brightness of the light on the controller. On the Hohem app screen, you need to select the subject to track, and the gimbal will center that subject. You can, if you want, keep the focus on the subject off-center. When the selected subject moves, or in this case it's kicked, the gimbal follows it across the screen. Outdoors, I found the AI tracking got rather confused if there are a lot of objects moving in front of it. But for simple, larger or isolated close-up objects, it does a good job. Now onto the fourth scenario, where you want to talk to your smartphone, and with AI tracking, the camera follows you around. The cute thing about this gimbal is that you can control it through gestures or hand signals up to 5 meters away, so nobody else needs to be involved in the recording. This is a particularly useful feature, although you can also do this via the detachable controller if you prefer. Here I am standing where I want the gear to start filming me. By making this hand gesture, the gear will lock onto my position and it'll follow me if and when I move around. Then I can make this gesture to start the video recording. I can see if this is happening by looking at a red light flashing on the gimbal. The gimbal follows me around, and when I finish talking, I can stop the recording using another gesture, or I can walk to the gear and turn it off. You can also control the gimbal from these distances by taking the small, detachable controller with you. If you do this, you have the advantage of being able to see what the camera is seeing, so you can make sure you're in the center of the frame, or wherever you want to be if you want to set the focus to be off-center. In terms of other useful scenarios for using the gimbal, there are two more that I'd like to quickly mention. You can walk around to produce time-lapses like this. It's also surprisingly easy to set the gimbal up on a tripod to take time-lapses where the gimbal automatically pans across the view. It's great for creative videos. For example, if you want to pan slowly across a scene, all you have to do is to point your smartphone at the start and finish points, enter those points, and the gimbal will pan between the two for however long you want it to. Last, but by no means least, this gimbal is a very useful tool for improving the quality of photographs you can take with your smartphone. Indeed, all the benefits I've covered from a videographer's perspective apply to photography. It can help you steady your shots. You can zoom in and out of scenes to frame photographs. It's good for selfies, handheld, or using the remote controller to photograph groups of people. And it's also particularly useful for taking panorama photos. I found you can produce a better quality result from the smartphone using the gimbal than you can handheld. So that's my take on Hohem's iSteady M7 gimbal, and I have to say it's been a lot of fun learning to use at least some of the creative features of this piece of equipment. I'm very impressed at all the technology packed into such a portable gimbal, and I thoroughly recommend it if you're interested in the benefits I've outlined in this video. If you are interested in the gimbal, I've included an affiliate link in the description below, and if you use this link, you'll be helping to support my channel. Any comments on this video are most welcome, and until the next time, all the best.